They said I was the kind of employee every company wanted: dependable, quiet, precise. They were right. I was perfect. Until I wasn't. 5 years of spotless performance reviews, late nights, and the same chair by the same window. Then one morning, an email. Congratulations to Nathan Clark on his promotion. My name wasn't there. A mistake, I thought. It had to be. 2 hours later, my manager called me into his office. He smiled that corporate smile and said, "Evelyn, we'll need your help training him." In that moment, something shifted. Not in my face, but somewhere deeper. Something snapped without breaking. People think betrayal happens all at once. They're wrong. It happens in silence, in paperwork, in the way your name disappears from the email chain. And when it does, you start writing your own report. I used to think offices were neutral spaces, places for logic, not emotion. But walls remember. They echo laughter, arguments, and the sound of every resignation letter printed after hours. At Arden & Lowe, I was the quiet constant. 34 senior operations analyst 5 years in. The kind of employee who doesn't make noise, who gets results, dependable, invisible, safe. Then came Nathan Clark. He was younger, 30 maybe, charming in a way that worked better in PowerPoint slides than in person. He had a laugh that filled the break room, and a confidence that didn't quite fit his experience. He wasn't better. Just louder. My manager, Paul Avery, loved loud. He called it leadership presence. He said Nathan had energy. He said I had stability. Stability, I realized, is just another word for being taken for granted. The promotion opened that spring. It wasn't a surprise. I'd been handling managerial work for months without the title. Paul told me, "You've basically been doing the job already." HR smiled. The VP shook my hand. I believed them. Then came that email. Congratulations to Nathan Clark on his promotion to team manager. Just one sentence. 12 words. And my 5 years vanished between them. I read it 3 times before I understood. Not because I was shocked, but because it was so predictable. My hands didn't shake. My face didn't change. But something inside me stopped. Paul's door opened a few minutes later. He gestured for me to come in. His blinds were half drawn, the kind of lighting they use for apologies. "Evelyn," he said, "I know this might sting, but Nathan just connects with people. You're invaluable, though. We'll need your help getting him up to speed." I said nothing. He smiled like we were discussing something minor. "It's temporary. You'll be his mentor through the transition." Mentor, I repeated. That word felt like poison in my mouth. When I left, the hallway seemed longer, the air thicker. The fluorescent lights buzzed just a little louder. That night, I didn't cry. I poured a glass of wine, opened my laptop, and scrolled through 5 years of project archives. Every file I'd fixed, every mistake I'd covered, every success they'd used to promote someone else. Then I created a new folder. I named it Truth, and I started collecting. Nathan started the next Monday. He brought a new mug that said Boss Fuel. The team laughed. I didn't. He leaned over my desk, too close, too casual. "Hey, Ev, mind showing me the weekly tracking template again?" I corrected him. "It's Evelyn," he grinned. "Right, sorry, Evelyn." His tone made it sound like a joke. For 2 weeks, I trained him. I walked him through spreadsheets, projections, client histories, all the invisible labor that kept our department running. He took notes sloppily, half listened. But every time Paul passed by, Nathan straightened up, spoke louder, used words he didn't understand. He once told me, "You're such a perfectionist." "You must be exhausted," I replied. "Not as exhausted as I'll be fixing your reports." He laughed. I didn't. People began congratulating him like he'd cured cancer. I smiled, nodded, played the part of the supportive colleague. Inside, something darker was taking shape. Not anger exactly, but calculation. After hours, when the office emptied, I stayed. Not to work, to document. I printed email threads, saved deliverables, labeled every file that proved who had done what. Each page was a quiet rebellion. Paul once asked if I was adjusting okay. I told him, I'm just observing. He didn't ask what I meant. One night, I stayed later than usual. The cleaning crew had left. Only the hum of the HVAC system filled the silence. On the desk beside mine, Nathan's new corporate badge glowed faintly under the emergency light. His password reminder was on a sticky note. Careless. I didn't touch it. But I noticed something strange. An open email draft on his screen, half finished, addressed to Paul. Regarding Evelyn's performance during the transition, I stopped reading. I didn't need to see more. I understood perfectly. He was building a paper trail. A version of events where I was the problem. That night, I renamed my truth folder. I called it Report Nar Zero because this wasn't about keeping proof anymore. It was about writing something. Something final. People like to say time heals things. It doesn't. Time just organizes the damage so it looks like order. Weeks passed. Nathan adjusted, or thought he did. Paul was proud of his leadership instincts. HR sent me cheerful reminders about mentorship metrics. I said nothing. Silence has weight. If you hold it long enough, it starts bending people around you. Nathan began avoiding eye contact. He'd ask questions through email now. Sometimes he'd CC Paul, sometimes he'd forget. But I read every word twice, looking for cracks. The first real one came when a client caught an error in a budget proposal. Numbers off by a decimal, just enough to look careless. Nathan blamed an intern. The intern blamed me. Paul called me in again. He had that tone, rehearsed empathy, the kind they teach in management seminars. Evelyn, I know this transition hasn't been easy. Maybe you're overthinking things. Overthinking. The word that men use when women notice patterns, I said, if I overthink, it's because no one else does. He smiled tightly. We just need collaboration. Collaboration. Another euphemism. It means stop resisting your own erasure. I went back to my desk and opened report number 0. This time, I didn't just file documents. I wrote, Subject, Employee Development Case, Nathan Clark. I documented everything. Not as complaint, as analysis. Behavior patterns, inconsistencies, leadership blind spots. The language of HR repurposed as weaponry. If they wanted professionalism, I'd give them something clinical. Undeniable. Precise. It felt good. Almost too good. A calm satisfaction, like rearranging evidence at a crime scene no one knew had happened yet. Late one Thursday, I stayed past 9. The office was empty except for the hum of machines that never sleep. I heard the elevator, a soft chime, and footsteps. Nathan, he looked surprised to see me. You're still here? Always, I said. He smiled. You know, people notice. The late nights, the intensity, do they? Yeah, Paul said he's worried about you. Thinks maybe you're burning out. I turned to him. Paul said that. He nodded. He's got your best interests at heart. The irony almost made me laugh. I walked closer, slow. You know what I think, Nathan? He hesitated. What? I think you're better at pretending than performing. He looked away. That's not fair. No, I said. Fair would have been me getting the promotion. He started to leave, but then stopped. Look, Evelyn, this isn't personal. It's just how things work. That phrase, how things work, it stayed with me, because systems don't break accidentally. They're designed to favor someone, to erase someone else. When he left, I sat in his chair. The screen was still on. His inbox open, and there it was, the email I'd been waiting for. A chain between him and Paul, time-stamped weeks before the promotion. Let's move forward with Nathan for management. Evelyn can handle the back end until he's ready. Weeks before interviews even started. My hands didn't tremble. I forwarded it to my personal address, then printed a copy. Paper has permanence that email doesn't. That night, I added a new line to report number 0. Decision finalized before selection process. Confirmation of bias. For the first time in months, I slept. The next morning, Paul called me in again. HR was there. They used gentle voices like nurses before an injection. Evelyn, we've received feedback that your attitude has been difficult. From whom? It's not about blame. It's about creating a healthy environment. Healthy, I repeated. You mean quiet. They exchanged glances. We'd like to discuss a transition plan. Maybe a different department, I smiled. No need. I've already written my own report. They paused. Your own report? Yes, I said. You'll get it soon. Then I stood up, straightened my blazer, and walked out. They didn't stop me. They didn't know they should have. The report took 3 nights. I wrote it the way I used to write client audits. Cold, factual, exact. Subject, organizational integrity breach. Arden and low. I outlined the timeline. The premeditated promotion. The false mentorship assignment. The fabricated feedback. Every detail sourced, time-stamped, verifiable. I attached documents, internal memos, drafts. And then, at the end, one personal note. This isn't a complaint. This is documentation of a pattern, the kind that survives because people like me don't speak until it's too late. I didn't send it to HR. I sent it to the VP and BCC'd every executive on the board. Then I shut my laptop and went to bed. At 6:42 a.m., my phone buzzed. 3 missed calls from Paul, 1 from HR, and 1 from an unknown number, external. By 9:20 a.m., the office felt different, quieter. People avoided my eyes. Paul's door stayed closed. Nathan's desk was empty. By noon, an all-company email. Effective immediately, Nathan Clark is no longer with Arden and Lowe. No reason. No details. Just silence. At 2 p.m., Paul resigned for personal reasons. The VP called me in that evening. She didn't ask for explanations. She just said, "You understand this creates complications." I replied, "Truth always does." She looked at me for a long time. Then said, "We'll find a way to make this right." But right, I'd learned, is a moving target. I stayed 2 more weeks, long enough to watch the company adjust to its new wound. People whispered. Meetings got shorter. Emails became polite. Then on my last day, HR handed me a sealed envelope. A settlement offer. Confidentiality clause included, I took it. Not for the money, for the symbolism. They paid me to be quiet. They didn't realize silence was never the problem. That night, I went home, opened report number 0 one last time. I added 1 line at the end, case closed. Then I encrypted the folder and sent a copy to my personal archive drive. Not for revenge, for record. Because history only exists when someone bothers to write it down. 2 weeks later, I got a new job. Smaller firm, quieter team. My new manager shook my hand and said, "We value transparency here." I smiled. "You'll have it." And for the first time, I meant it, but sometimes late at night, when my phone buzzes with company updates from old colleagues, I open the emails just to see who's still there, who survived the silence. They say the world belongs to those who speak up. Maybe. But the truth is, most wars are won by the ones who know when to stay quiet, when to let others hang themselves with their own words. I didn't burn the company down. I just turned on the lights, and sometimes that's enough, because power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it files reports at 2 a.m. Sometimes it smiles through a meeting while taking notes no one asked for. And when it leaves with everything it ever built, and everything you'll never get back. That's the thing about reports. They don't end with signatures. They end with silence.